It's all covered in today's China Truths.
In recent weeks, strange scenes across China have left people deeply uneasy. Videos taken by residents show military helicopters circling low over cities, columns of armored vehicles rolling down highways, and heavy machinery being transported through Shandong and Mianyang. Roads are clogged with convoys of military trucks, and yet no one knows why. Did you guys see this today? What's going on? Why isn't anyone reporting it? One netizen asked in confusion. The silence from authorities has only fueled more fear. On social media, people are nervously sharing advice on how to stay private and prepare for emergencies. Many say local officials are urging citizens to stock up on waterproof gear, portable power supplies, medicine for fevers and colds, and even painkillers. They're promoting emergency storage every single day, one commenter wrote. I was so scared that I checked my emergency bag overnight. Why is the government suddenly telling us to prepare for a doomsday? Soon, state-run outlets like People's Daily and People's Network join the wave, broadcasting endless reminders about disaster preparedness. That's when speculation exploded. Online theories spread like wildfire. Some netizens claimed there could be only three explanations: internal unrest, an operation targeting Taiwan, or a high-level political showdown. Whatever it is, one person wrote darkly, it all ends with cannons. Others suspected that amid economic chaos and social pressure, the government might be creating distractions. When people can't afford to eat, one comment read, war becomes the easiest way to change the topic. Another post went further. If war reduces the population, it reduces food demand. It's cruel, but it's efficient. Across Chinese forums, many connected these signs to the collapsing economy. Unemployment is spreading, the stock market is stagnant, and factories are shutting down. From middle-aged workers to the younger generation, everyone feels the decline, one commentator said. This is not just about bad numbers, it's about survival. With real estate prices in free fall, the entire nation seems trapped in an economic whirlpool that could last for decades. Add to that the growing list of natural and man-made disasters, floods, plagues, droughts, and industrial failures. And China's foundation looks increasingly fragile. Meanwhile, the atmosphere across the country grows eerier. It's only October, yet temperatures in northern provinces have already plunged below zero, while the south remains strangely hot. Yunnan and Sichuan have been rattled by a string of earthquakes, and coastal regions are still recovering from back-to-back typhoons. Is this the end of the world? Iman and Fujian asked, watching torrential rain wash through empty streets. The land feels dry, the sky looks wrong, the rain falls when it shouldn't. Every day feels like a warning. The harvest season has also turned disastrous. Continuous rain has flooded farmland, and in some provinces, wheat crops have rotted before they could be collected. If this continues, we won't be able to plant anything next season, one farmer said in despair. Food security is now a growing concern. These aren't natural disasters, another villager argued. They're man-made. People have wasted resources, polluted rivers, and destroyed balance. The greed of humans has brought this upon us. He may not be wrong. Across China's countryside, rivers have turned black, and once fertile fields are barren. Generations of overuse and pollution have left the soil lifeless. Farmers who once relied on nature's rhythm now face something unpredictable and unforgiving. If we keep wasting and destroying like this, one man said, we won't just lose our harvests, we'll lose our future. This story takes a haunting turn when it recalls the words of the late Taiwanese scholar Zheng Xixiang, whose final warning before his passing in 2018 now feels eerily prophetic. Zheng once said that the great plagues and disasters sweeping across the world are not coincidences. They are punishments from heaven, reminders that humanity has grown arrogant, selfish, and blind. But heaven is merciful, he emphasized. Before great catastrophes arrive, there are always warnings, unusual signs in nature, strange phenomena in the sky, or smaller disasters meant to awaken us. According to Zheng, the universe itself keeps a perfect record of every human thought and deed, a divine database that never forgets. Every thought, whether good or evil, is stored instantly, he explained. A few good actions cannot erase years of wrongdoing. You can't harm others for profit and then think that burning incense or saying prayers will balance the scales. It won't. The universe remembers everything. His words, once considered mystical, now sound like a sober reflection of the chaos we see today. Yet under decades of ideological control, people in mainland China have been told there are no gods, no spirits, and no life after death. For generations, they've been taught that man alone controls destiny, one commentator said. Without belief, morality decays. When people are told there is no heaven or hell, they lose their fear of doing wrong. The heart grows cold, and the nation loses its conscience. Not long ago, a chilling video surfaced online. It was filmed on August 27th at a quiet lake somewhere in China. When a fisherman shone his flashlight on the water, two human-shaped shadows, one white, one black, appeared walking across the surface toward the boat. The white figure seemed to wear a long robe, its movements unnaturally fast. In an instant, it vanished. Moments later, something unseen startled a herd of cattle nearby. One cow ran frantically while the others froze in terror. Witnesses claimed the mysterious shapes appeared and disappeared several times, leaving everyone trembling. "The world has lost its balance," the man behind the camera whispered. "Storms, earthquakes, and strange weather. These are not random. Maybe heaven is warning us." Elder Zheng had once spoken of this balance long ago. When one land turns cold and another burns with heat, disaster follows, he said. When warmth turns to cold again, another calamity begins. At the time, people dismissed his words as superstition. But today, with floods, droughts, and quakes striking all at once, those warnings echo with an uncomfortable truth. The message is clear and timeless. The world must wake up. When humans abandon kindness and respect for nature, the earth will strike back in ways we cannot predict. These aren't stories meant to scare. They are lessons meant to guide. Heaven's laws never change, but humanity often forgets. If we continue to defy nature, disaster will always come sooner than expected. Only by restoring conscience, humility, and harmony with the world around us can we find peace again. Across China today, a heavy silence hangs in the air. Once bustling factories now stand cold and empty, their gates sealed and signs stripped away. Millions of young graduates wander from city to city, clutching resumes no one reads. Families who once owned homes are now living out of cars. Their savings vanished with collapsing property prices. Street vendors whisper that money no longer flows. Office towers in big cities go dark earlier each night, and behind the glittering skyline, despair quietly spreads. The illusion of endless growth has shattered, and the people once told that China's rise will never end now face a harsh truth. The empire is trembling. At the same time, nature itself seems to mirror the chaos of society. Floods drown the farmlands, drought cracks the northern plains, and storm pound the southern coast again and again. The land feels cursed. Harvests rot in the fields, rivers run black, and earthquakes shake without warning. In small towns, people whisper that heaven is angry, that these disasters are not random, but signs. Temples see long lines once again, as the faithless begin to pray. "We used to laugh at superstition," said an old farmer. "But when everything you built starts to collapse, you realize maybe heaven has its own logic." What the people once dismissed as myth now feels like prophecy coming true. And while officials still speak of stability and confidence, the ground beneath the nation is shifting. Banks quietly freeze withdrawals, developers disappear overnight, and local governments drown in hidden debts. On the streets, hopelessness grows. Workers protest unpaid wages, students talk of leaving the country, and the elderly fear the return of famine. When faith in money dies, one netizen wrote, the true storm begins. That storm may already be here. The great crisis of this century is not just economic. It is spiritual, moral, and human. When a nation loses its conscience and ignores the laws of heaven, even the strongest walls will one day crumble. Factories in China are shutting down at a pace the world has never seen. Bankruptcy waves, unpaid salaries, mass layoffs. Millions of workers are suddenly left with nothing. Protests are erupting in city after city, and the myth of stability is falling apart before our eyes. Welcome to China Truths, where we reveal the truths that state media hides. For decades, Chinese factories were the pride of the nation, the so-called world's workshop. From cheap textiles to advanced electronics, production lines roared day and night, lifting millions from poverty and fueling China's meteoric rise. Migrant workers poured into industrial hubs, believing factory jobs meant security and a better life. But that story is over. Global demand has collapsed, foreign companies are pulling their supply chains elsewhere, and Chinese households, drowning in debt, can no longer spend. Factories that once expanded endlessly on cheap credit are now buried under mountains of debt they cannot repay. As loans dry up, production halts, bankruptcy filings soar, entire industrial zones look like ghost towns. The human cost is staggering. Workers show up to find factory gates locked, machines abandoned, and no sign of management. Some haven't been paid for months. Others are laid off overnight with no severance, no warning, and no future. Outrage is spreading, strikes, sit-ins, and blockades erupting from Guangdong to Henan. Families that once trusted the system now feel betrayed and left to starve. The government, terrified of unrest, tries to contain the damage. Videos of protests vanish from the internet within hours. Officials urge workers to be patient, but patience doesn't feed children or pay rent. Behind the censorship, the anger only grows stronger. Local governments scramble to hand out partial wages from emergency funds, but it's like pouring water on a wildfire. Guangdong, once the jewel of China's export empire, is now a hotspot of chaos. At one electronics plant, thousands staged a sit-in demanding back pay, clashing with riot police as security tried to clear them out. In Henan, garment workers dragged sewing machines onto highways, blocking traffic until their voices were heard. In Zhejiang, shoemakers protested outside shuttered factories, furious after being discarded like broken tools. The collapse is not just hitting workers. Small subcontractors depending on bigger factories are also collapsing, taking down entire villages with them. Truck drivers lose shipments, port activity declines. Dormitories empty as migrants retreat to the countryside in defeat. What was once China's strongest engine is now sputtering, threatening not just jobs but the very foundation of social stability. From world's workshop to nationwide unrest, the downfall of China's factories is no longer a hidden story. It is unfolding in real time, and the world is watching. The devastation is written on people's faces. Migrant workers who once proudly sent money back to their villages now return empty-handed. Families who borrowed heavily to buy apartments or pay for their children's schooling suddenly find themselves trapped in debt, staring down foreclosure. In the countryside, parents who depended on monthly remittances are left abandoned, plunging already poor rural communities into deeper despair. That despair is boiling over. In Sichuan, furious workers staged a strike after their factory sealed its gates and refused to pay months of wages. Riot police arrived, and violent clashes broke out in the streets. In Jiangsu, workers stormed a company's headquarters, flipping desks, scattering files, and seizing corporate records to stop management from disappearing. Every protest is quickly stamped out by authorities, yet each month the crowds grow larger and angrier. Beijing's greatest fear is clear, a chain reaction of worker uprisings that could ignite across provinces. Meanwhile, the government is scrambling to protect its image of control. State media paints a rosy picture, talking up new opportunities in green tech, digital platforms, and retraining schemes. But for millions who can't pay rent or feed their children, these promises sound empty and out of reach. The truth is simple. China's industrial core, once the largest source of jobs, is collapsing at a pace far faster than new industries can replace. What we are witnessing has no precedent. The very factories that powered China's rise are now ground zero for rage and unrest. Workers who once kept their heads down in silence are now blocking highways, marching with banners, and demanding accountability. Each factory closure is more than just an economic loss. It's a social earthquake shaking the foundations of the so-called China dream. For countless workers, that dream has curdled into a nightmare of debt, betrayal, and broken promises. This is not a short-term slump. Debt, falling demand, and rigid political control have fused into a systemic collapse. Three forces stand out above all: a debt-fueled growth model, a sharp decline in global demand, and policies that favor political obedience over real adaptation. For decades, cheap loans from state banks encouraged factories to expand endlessly. Local governments showered them with subsidies to boost GDP figures, rewarding scale instead of sustainability. That system worked only as long as the world kept buying. Now the bills are due. Interest payments exceed revenues, and thousands of factories are drowning in loans they can never repay. Bankruptcy isn't an accident. It's the inevitable result of chasing size over stability. The second force is external. The world no longer consumes Chinese goods like before. Inflation, recessions, and tighter wallets in the West mean fewer orders. At the same time, global brands are fleeing, shifting production to Vietnam, India, or Mexico to escape dependence on Beijing. Factories are left stranded with warehouses stuffed full of unsold goods and no buyers in sight. Inside China, demand is just as weak. Households crushed by mortgages and job insecurity are slashing spending. Too many factories are now chasing too few orders. The result is brutal: shuttered plants, abandoned dormitories, and a collapsing dream that once defined China's rise. The roots of this collapse are not random missteps. They are the direct result of Beijing's choices. Under Xi Jinping, loyalty has been valued above innovation. Instead of supporting private enterprise, the government clipped its wings, launching crackdowns that shattered industries once poised to create millions of jobs. The strict zero-COVID policy strangled supply chains, and countless small factories suffocated under impossible restrictions. Even today, instead of offering relief, Beijing buries the truth, censors bankruptcies, and tells workers to wait patiently while factories die in silence. This obsession with control leaves no room for flexible reforms. No serious debt restructuring, no real safety nets, no transparency. The result is a vicious spiral: factories crushed by debt, global buyers fleeing to other countries, workers left with nothing, and a government still in denial. What we're seeing isn't just the shutdown of plants, it's the unraveling of a system that once promised security in exchange for sacrifice, but now delivers nothing but unemployment, hunger, and despair.
Please share your thoughts in the comments section below. We will keep reporting on the COVID surge in China, so don't forget to subscribe to our channel and turn on the notification bell to get the latest videos. And thank you for tuning in.